Let's talk some more about Stoicism, and let me adjust my device so that you don't see that ceiling light. We'd ended up in book 6. Let's look at book 6, sections 47, 48. Think constantly of all the sorts of men of various professions and of all the nations on earth who have died. And so bring your thought down to Philistion, Phoebus, and Oregonian. Pass now to the other classes of men. We too are bound to change our abode to that other world where there are so many skilled orators, so many distinguished philosophers, Heraclitus, Pythagoras, Socrates, so many heroes of old, so many later commanders and kings. Add Eudoxus, Hipparchus, Archimedes, add other men of penetrating intellect, men of great vision, men dedicated to their work. Add rogues, bigots, and even satirists of this transient mortal life like Menippus and his kind. Reflect of all of these that they are long dead and buried. So is this anything terrible for them, or indeed for men whose very names are lost? In this world, there is only one thing of value: to live out your life in truth and justice, tolerant of those who are neither true nor just. Section 48. Whenever you want to cheer yourself, think of the qualities of your fellows, the energy of one, for example, the decency of another, the generosity of a third, some other merit in a fourth. There is nothing so cheering as the stamp of virtues manifest in the character of colleagues, and the greater the collective incidents, the better, so keep them to hand. I think you'd be very hard-pressed to find a Stoic, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, who would say men and women differ from each other. I don't mean the genders, I mean people differ from each other. We are so different that we should systematically treat one group completely differently from another group. Marcus Aurelius continuously stresses, we are all brothers and sisters, we all belong together, one human race, one human kind. He even says so here in section 54. What does not benefit the hive does not benefit the bee either. All together. Now I want to talk about this because there's a lot going on in the world. And I have to cover this topic. And this topic makes some people very uncomfortable. And that's okay. I'm not telling you what to think. All I'm saying is, this really, really is a time where you need to reflect. You really have to. So, I just want to discuss a couple things that I've seen a lot over the past days and that rub me the wrong way, one or another. So here's first of all, group membership is a big thing. In mankind, it's a big thing. I'm just going to say mankind. I should probably say humankind. For us humans, group membership is a big thing. And this is an evolutionary thing. We used to live in small communes, and if an outsider would come in, that person could be a threat. They could be out to kill you or hurt you. So you would have to be very, very careful. You'd be wary of people who are different from you. But that was back in the day. Now we live in a very different type of society. And you have to really think about what that means in our society. And now if you think, but we don't create groups that easily. I consider everyone to be like one mankind, humankind, whatever. Like it's all good. No, it's not. That's not exactly how it works. They've done experiments where they gave half the students coming into a classroom a green T-shirt, and the other half, received nothing. And at the end of the class, the students were asked, "What group do you value most?" And the green T-shirt students valued the green group most. They felt they belonged to that group, that group was better than the other group. That's one of the most shocking results. Better than the students who did not receive a T-shirt. But unfortunately, this group did nothing. There was no group work. There was nothing. There was no communication. There were no exercises between groups. Groups weren't even pitted against each other. The green t-shirt students believed that their group was best. I don't know, I'm not remember if it was actually green t-shirts, but you understand what I mean, right? That's fairly terrifying in my mind. That little is all that is required to make us feel part of the in-group and to push back against the out-group, because the out-group is different. And again, if you want to be stoic about it, we all belong together, right? Marcus Aurelius is clear. What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee. But that hive, that should be all humans, not a group of humans. Now, I know full well what type of comments I will get in this video, and that's okay. Again, I'm not telling you what to believe or what not to believe. I just want you to think, okay? And when people are bound to have strong emotions about something, they don't always think clearly. So here's a couple of things to consider. I don't think violent riots, are ever a good thing. But in my mind, if you systematically suppress the opinion of groups of people, if you systematically maltreat groups of people, if you systematically just interact with groups of people differently from other groups, at some point, this is what you will get. I'm not justifying that. Again, I don't think that that type of violence is ever a positive way to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. But put yourself in that position, where every single time you face bias, every single time your arguments go unheard, how would you feel? Second thing, disproportionate violence. One person dies, 12 people die in the riots. I understand. But this is a bit of a false dichotomy, unfortunately. Because what you're saying now is 12 is more than 1. And therefore, that's worse. But that's not entirely true, is it? First of all, you have to look at the context. It's not one death. It's dozens of deaths. Dozens of deaths on that end. Not one. If you're looking at the one, you look at the microscopic picture, but you should be looking at the bigger picture. And there's a clear, systematic evidence of violence against one group of people. Second thing is, if you want to play the numbers game, let me give you an analogy. Why not? Classic ethical dilemma. Train out of control comes crashing down the rails. You're handling a lever, or if you prefer a lever. You have to pull it. Pull it in one way, the train will go to the left. It's a Y-shaped track of rails. You pull it one way, the train will go to the left. 100 innocent children standing on that rail track. School outing. They will all die when the train hits them. You pull the lever the other way. Train goes that way. 3 of your family members stand right there. I don't care what. Your spouse, your children, your whatever. Right there. Pull the lever that way. Train will go that way. 3 of them will die. You have to choose. You cannot not pull that lever. You have to choose. That's part of the game. I know what you do. You save your family. Are you a psychopath? Because you pick the lives of 3 people over the lives of 100 innocent children. That's the numbers game, isn't it? So you can't say Well, but, no. Both of these situations are equally terrifying. And again, I'm not condoning any violence. Of course, it's terrible, unacceptable that innocent people should die. But think about what the emotions are in this case. Think about what is really going on. You chose. You pulled that lever. The numbers don't always mean anything. Sometimes both cases are terrifying. Both cases are terrible. And the numbers alone do not make one worse than the other. But the context does. Both should be treated as a bad thing. An innocent person dying is a terrible thing. And multiple innocent people dying in riots is a terrible thing. And neither should have happened. But guess what? They did. And now you need to think about where you stand on that. Again, I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just providing some argumentation out there. Final thing. This one I also find very important. Black lives matter. And then people say, all lives matter. Yes, of course. But right now, we're in a crisis. And right now, one group says our lives are consistently in peril. And we don't take it anymore. We won't take this any longer. So right now, Black Lives Matter. Okay? Now I want to unpack that a little bit. I watched a very good video. Emmanuel Acho, I want to say. I'll post a link in the description to this video. I think he put it very eloquently. He said right now we have a coronavirus pandemic. So many medical efforts are focused on finding a vaccine for this coronavirus. That doesn't mean that cancer doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that HIV doesn't matter. It doesn't mean any of those things. But right now there is this crisis. So right now, coronavirus vaccine is a priority. Right now, Black Lives Matter. Final thing I will say is, look at that statement. What does it say? Stick to Marcus Aurelius. Of each thing ask, what is it in itself? What does that statement ask of you? Not to acknowledge Black Lives Matter more. Not to acknowledge Black lives are more valuable than anyone else's lives. Look at it. Black lives matter. Just acknowledge that they matter. Not that they are better than, more valuable than. Just that they matter. And if we live in a society that cannot accept that the lives of a marginalized, systematically marginalized and abused group matter, just matter, well, then I deplore that society. More food for thought. I'm not trying to change your mind on things. I'm not trying to tell you what to think. I'm not trying to spark controversy. All I'm asking is sit down and really think. Listen to what people are saying on both sides. That's a dialogue. if you're only giving your opinion and not listening to others, not trying to understand their arguments, not trying to hear what they're saying, then it's a monologue. And monologues don't help us very much. Which is ironic for the guy who just gave you a 15.5-minute monologue. So this, I think, that's a moment to end. Emotions run high. You're free to comment. But do it with respect. I'm not out to make anyone feel bad. I'm not out to tell anyone you are wrong, they are right, etc. But if you can't critically think, well, then you're lost. And then we will never find a solution to these kinds of issues. Think, listen. That's it.